What do you do whenever you have so many things going on that you can barely keep up and you just feel overwhelmed and completely burned out? God's got an answer for you today in His Word coming up. Hey, my friend, welcome to The Beat. My name is Alan Parr. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here on this channel, we answer frequently asked questions about the Christian faith. We talk about dating and relationships from a Christian perspective, and we do all sorts of other Bible-based videos as well. So if you're new, consider subscribing. So for the past couple of years or so, I have been completely overwhelmed with the pressures of being a great husband to my wife, being a great father to my daughter, starting and managing my own business, and keeping up with the demands of this growing ministry called The Beat. And if I'm honest about it, I'm a little burned out. And I trust that some of you are as well. So if you're feeling that way, I want to encourage you to watch this entire video as I give you 5 ways to reduce stress in your life. And hey, real quick, if there are any ways that you know that you can reduce stress and burnout in your life that are not on this list, do me a favor and leave those in the comment section below. Our story today comes from Exodus chapter 18, beginning in verse 13, and it says, "The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening." Now imagine for a second, you are out in the hot desert where there's no food, there's no water, surrounded by 2 million Jewish people. They're bickering, they're complaining, they're blaming one another, and all Moses does all day, every day, is sit on a seat and judge people's disputes with one another. 2 million people, that's a lot of stress. So here are 5 things that I believe this passage teaches us about reducing stress and eliminating burnout. Number 1, get some help. Notice what it says here in verse 14. It says, when his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" Also at the end of verse 18, it says, "The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone." Then he goes on in verse 21 and he says, "You know what, Moses, you need to select some capable men that can take some of these things off of your plate so that you can focus on doing the things that you do best." One of the reasons why so many of us, myself included, are so stressed out and so burned out is because we're so busy doing all these other tasks that we're not willing to get the help that we need to take these small things off of our plate so that we can focus on the things that God wants us to do. So what does this look like? It means that at home, you may have to hire a cleaning lady to help keep the house clean. You may have to hire somebody to cook food for you. If you're a business owner, it may mean that you have to hire some other people, which means it may take away from your profits, but you will get your life back and you won't be as stressed out and you won't be as burned out. Number 2, take unnecessary things off your plate. Notice Jethro's wisdom that he gives to his son-in-law Moses in verse 22. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide for themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. Now watch this. It says in verse 23, if you do this and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain and all of these people will go home satisfied. Do you know what he's saying to Moses? He's saying, you know what? You need to get in your sweet spot, Moses. You're spending too much of your time, too much of your day doing all these different tasks that are not focusing in on what God has called you to do, which is draining you, which is stressing you out, which is causing burnout in your life. He says if you delegate and get these things off of your plate, then and only then will you be able to stand the strain. In other words, you'll be able to endure without getting burned out. Number 3 is a super important one, and that is to realize what is at stake if you continue going at the pace that you're going at. In verse 17, it says this is not good, Moses' father-in-law exclaims. You're going to wear yourself out and the people too. Notice he says, Moses, not only are you going to wear out because what you're doing is too much for you to do by yourself, but you're also going to wear the other people out. And so once again, whenever we are overwhelmed, we're burned out, we're stressed out, we're crabby, we're moody, we're irritable, we're short with people, we're short-tempered, and basically we're just not fun people to be around if we're honest about it. So we have to be honest and ask ourselves, is it worth it to continue going at this pace if I very well may lose my family, lose my relationships, and ultimately lose my health? or should I make the necessary changes in my life so that I can go at a pace that is healthy for me and those around me? Number 4 is a short one, but a very important one, and that is to know your capacity. Notice the advice that Jethro gives his son-in-law Moses in verse 18. It says here, the work is too heavy for you. You see, sometimes the reason why we're so stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed is because we're trying to keep up with other people that may have a different capacity than we do. Listen, you have to know what your capacity is, and just because you see someone else running 100 miles a minute, it doesn't mean that you are able to do the same thing. It's super important for us to know how much we can handle without going overboard. And number 5 is probably the most important one, and that is to listen to what people around you are saying. Notice in verse 24, it says, Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. Sometimes it's the people around us who love us and care about us so much that are simply telling us, you know what, you need to slow down. You need to take some things off of your plate. You need to go at a slower pace, because if not, something bad is going to happen to you. But sadly, oftentimes we ignore the advice that other people give us because we're consumed with our desire for success, advancement, and just simply filled with pride. If you want to reduce burnout and feelings of stress and overwhelm in your life, I want to encourage you to start listening to the things that people around you are saying. If you found this video helpful in any way, feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you would subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time on The Beat.